bad on the. Okay, so everything we said up till now wasn't so.
Recorded.
Talking about expectations, we're going to just hit the topic again, since we're starting the recording again. I'm talking about expectations and how to deal with them, the frustrations, and how to work on expectations and the effect of expectations. Go ahead, please.
Right. So his example about being ready to go out someplace. You have to be somewhere. You could be a doctor's appointment, could be anywhere. You could take your kid to God. I don't know what, it doesn't matter. But that one person usually has a better sense of time than the other one. It's unlikely that both people are very meduyak with zman and get out the door exactly on time to get someplace on time. It's a little unusual, but we this is where Don L'Chassus comes in, because and we have to give and women the benefit of the doubt the most, because they're usually getting the kids ready, and then they have to pack the food, and they have to do their makeup, and so it's a little more time consuming than a man's set of what they have to do before they walk out the door.
Oh, this is a pitch if ever I heard one.
No, I'm the one that's late. He's on time.
Even if everything's backed up. Again, the problem becomes the tension and the bad feelings. Having expectations in and of themselves is not bad. We have expectations of ourselves. We should be learning, davening, more, kinder, more empathetic. Expectations, if a person doesn't have expectations, something's wrong, right? That means he's not striving. He's not trying to grow. What happens is, if you take the expectation, you turn it to your partner, and the partner you have expectations of your partner, that's a recipe for, disaster, or at least a recipe for some serious tension, because you expect the partner to act a certain way, do something, etc. So go ahead.
So you made me think this through a little more, that say in the case of somebody having a hard time getting out of the house with still more to do before they leave, even to turn off the lights or heat or whatever it is, it's going to just take longer. So we always have two choices. We can always blame the other person for why we're late or why something's not working out, or we can take responsibility. So what I want to suggest is that if somebody is having a hard time getting out the door in time or anything else, that the partner, instead of blaming them, getting upset, why can't you be on time? We knew we had to leave at this time, that they assist to get out the door faster. If they say, what can I help you with? What needs to be done? And then they just do it. And then you're a team, you're working together towards the common goal, instead of one person being blamed and one person being the one who's upholding the rules and regulations.
Right. Plus, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
I was just going to say, plus that it's almost never a good idea to talk about your expectations at the moment of the frustration, which is what pretty much everybody does. Right. I told you I wanted to leave on time. I told you that I told you we had to leave by 6:30. We do this all the time. You always are late, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't express that frustration at that moment. You have to figure out how you're going to, either help out or do something. And then at a calmer time, get clear what your expectations are and state them. But even without saying, I meant to say something first. When you realize what your expectations are, you have to think about how workable and how realistic is that. Is your expectations for your partner realistic? Your partner just doesn't have a sense of order, right? We're working with a lovely couple. She doesn't have a great sense of order. He does, makes him crazy. So doesn't mean he doesn't need that or doesn't want to work on it. But if you have an expectation that is basically not doable, so you have to be honest with yourself and say, can I really expect this? Then you get into a whole different category called disappointment. Disappointment is when you kind of realize, or at least one type of disappointment is when you realize that the expectation you have will never really happen. which is a whole different category. You know,
That's almost like a loss of a dream. If you dreamt your house was going to look a certain way, whether it's order or whether it's time or anything else, even divrei Torah at the Shabbos table, if you had this dream, which is also another word for expectation, and then it doesn't pan out, and you've tried to work on it, you've tried to talk about it, you've tried to modify it, and it's still not happening, then you've got to deal with your own reality of like, this doesn't fit the picture. I thought something was going to be, and it's not going to be. And what do I have instead? What's good about the situation? What is working instead of what isn't working that I thought was going to be?
Which takes an awful lot of midos work.
Very much.
Because it's hard not to express, live with, kind of, grunt those disappointments. Very often will, especially each partner kind of knows about the other partner, how deeply frustrated and disappointed they are. And that, obviously doesn't help. But so we have those expectations. We have to figure out, okay, it's not happening. Now, what am I going to do? How am I going to process this? How am I going to go with this? And
In reality.
And it can be very, very painful, honestly, to realize that your partner is never going to be what you kind of expected. You're never going to be let's say, for example, something you couldn't have known. You couldn't have known how your partner was going to be with the kids. And then you find out and realize, wow, your partner has no patience, or has little patience, or gets very worked up, and you say, like, just take it easy, like, why do you have to get so worked up for, right? And so it should be worked on. Again, expectations can be very healthy, but you need to deal with our own expectations. We need to try to get to, and we're allowed to try to work towards those goals. But if it doesn't happen, we have to be like, okay, I'm going to have to learn that this is something that the person cannot do. They cannot be orderly. I thought that I didn't live in a house with them when we were just dating. I didn't know to what degree.
Or I didn't know before we had kids that they weren't going to have patience with kids. And I think that we're always like recalibrating, always like shifting our thoughts to like, okay, now what do I do about it? This solutionizing. So if the order isn't there, how much disorder could I live with? Or how much can I roll up my sleeves and help create the order that I need? So obviously if your spouse doesn't need it and you do need it, then you have to help create it, rather than just expect it from your spouse to do it. And right, so rolling up your sleeves and changing your mindset are really both crucial to this picture. I think that people expect their wives to be beautiful, always dressed well, always put together, and lo and behold, wake up after a poor night's sleep, you don't have to get dressed and get out and look beautiful. That could be disappointing for the guy. Like, makeup's not on. I thought I married somebody much prettier than she really is. Or weight comes on, whether people start to gain weight. And it's like, I thought I married somebody skinny, like that's this reality that I imagine that guys have to live with. And they have to adjust themselves to, this is who I have. This is who Hashem wanted me to have. This is my buddy and my partner. We can make this go, even though it's not what I thought it was going to be.
So I was going to just kind of like in terms of giving this general picture. So again, you have the expectation, you kind of have to check, is this doable? Is this not doable? What is my part in trying to help it move along? But I want to just encourage everybody that there's going to be almost nothing that you're going to, it's a challenge because we have let's say that your wife should look a certain way. It should be attractive and made up, etc. But always, and we've discussed this before, always at the middle is the relationship, which means there's almost no topic if she doesn't, keep the house tidy. He doesn't, help out in the kitchen. He doesn't help with the kids. Anything that works at breaking apart the connection between the two of them is going to create tension, is going to be the opposite of what we want. And it's sometimes surprising to me how the expectations will supersede the connection. Something I'm working with. He just has certain expectations. And the relationship is kind of worn away because of those expectations. Because the expectations go before the connection. And
they're coming from very deep places. Most people have created their expectations from their homes that they grew up in, from movies, everybody's watched plenty of them, from what you see, your neighbors, people on the street interacting. We just expect things and we don't even know that they're there. And most people will respond in two ways when they're disappointed with their expectations not having been met. The majority are that they shut down, they get withdrawn, because now they're stewing in their negative thoughts about the person, about the disappointments. And then there's less connection because I'm busy thinking, oh, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, she doesn't look this, she doesn't look that. I can't have my needs met. And the other reaction is anger, so everybody's predisposed to one or the other more strongly. It's like where you end up really blowing your temper off, why can't you? Why can't the house be more orderly? Why can't you get the kids to behave? Why can't you have them in bed when I get home from work or whatever? So, so that's again, middos work, and middos work. All of marriage is a big workshop in middos. So, to control the angry feelings and to force yourself not to withdraw if you're the withdrawn type, that's sinking into morose thoughts about, how this shouldn't be, and they shouldn't be like this, and how did I get stuck with this? Okay, so just figure out which one you are. Maybe you're sometimes one, sometimes the other, and probably there's other reactions as well. Those are the major ones.
Right. I wanted to say that expectations are obviously affected by our society also, and
very much.
I have a friend of mine, Rav Moti Roberts, a big Talmid Chacham. So many people may whatever. Lives in Muncie, and he wrote a certain part of a sefer on Chavetz Chaim in English, and he makes an extremely important point. And I want to just say that marriages, in terms of the Chavetz Chaim, the issue that he used to talk about with Shmiras Lashon, and was the financial aspect. And people used to get married in those days because you got married and you had to live, and if you didn't expect a deep connection, right? But today, he said all of these halachas change because, not change, but there's much more going on for these halachas, because the assumption that a relationship should be something deep and meaningful and we should feel it is so much what the society has us expect of a relationship. And I think in our generation, again, maybe I'd be overstating it, but there was a certain sense of commitment, surely by our parents' generation, that you got married. You liked it, you didn't like it.
And you stayed married.
And you stayed married. It wasn't. But today, that a person should feel like that. So there's an expectation of connection. And that expectation, from both sides, is not realistic. There are times you'll feel connected, times you're not going to feel connected. There can be a hope and a working towards it. Like my wife was saying, how do we work towards a greater connection? What do we do when we're feeling distant? That's fine. The person who doesn't want to work on a connection with their partner is bad news. But the expectation, that burning expectation, what then leads to the disappointment, that like we're not connected. There's another couple that I'd be like, and they're a very frum couple, and they just somehow learned, and I'm even like kind of stupefied. They're a young couple. They learned that you should be connected all the time.
24/7.
Yeah, like, and if you're not connected, something's wrong,
that's heavy duty.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people today have that reality. So when they'll have a fight, chas v'shalom, or they'll be just feeling distant, or they're in their own head, and is not able to extend them. So there's a feeling like, wow, we're not meant for each other. This is not going to work. What's going to happen? We're not going to, this is never going to work out.
Because you're almost comparing how you're feeling now in the day-to-day with all the stresses of life to what you felt initially when you made the decision to get married, or you had a very big high together, connection. So it's like, I want to be that, I want to have that, and it's not now. So it's like, okay, what's missing here in the picture? Patience and realism. That it's not realistic to have that depth of love and togetherness all the time. And it's a huge pressure. That's a huge pressure that's going to be bound to fail.
Right. Listen, I always get a kick. I think there were two, Ariel Goldman and now Ellie, right? They have these beautiful pictures of the chassan and kala, and they're kind of, there's the balloons and the flowers and as sweet as that is, I mean, I know that Mrs. Sinowitz is on this call. We're not going to, on this video, I'm not going to ask her to tell her about her experience, but I'm pretty sure there weren't balloons and flowers. You got engaged. You want to get married. I'd love to marry you, maybe something nice, but wasn't like this Hollywood production. And since life is never going to be like that, it's just not. So it's like, what happened to those moments? What happened to that like magic that we had when we were dating? Then the expectations are, that's what our marriage should look like. And that's what my wife and I are trying to work on with couples. That's what we want to try to work on with whatever we can give over to, to the chevra here, that it's a work in process. And the expectations that it should be like those original days, like the Sheva brachos, by the Kopa, by the Chasna, by the engagement, is detrimental to the kind of relationship that we want and we need to develop.
I'm like, the Valentine heart is coming into my brain. The whole holiday of Valentine's Day. Just think about it. If you don't have somebody you want to give chocolates to and the card to, and profess your dying love towards, then it's like, Neveh, you're alone in the world and life is miserable. But it's all, everything's externalized. Who said that we've got to have a Valentine's Day? Who said we need to be in love, all the time? When you feel it, great, celebrate. And when you don't, just hang in there. I know it's going to come back, as soon as you've got the right set of circumstances and the right frame of mind. But that expectation of this picture of the flowers, all this hype, it's all externalized love. And we have to get back to internalized love.
Right. Let me just say, I don't want to be doing too much longer. We'll see if we, guys want to stick around. That happened in the last few weeks. Again, if there's any questions, please feel free to
put it in the chat.
Send them on the chat, because I would like to hear if there's anything.
Any comments about the whole topic of expectations?
But so again, so just in terms of putting it a little bit of an overview. So again, expectations.
Sorry, can I ask? So somebody recently asked me a question about expectations, and the feeling that I got from them was that they felt like, does she not care? Meaning, I have expectations. I don't think they're unreasonable. Does she not care? I'm trying so hard to meet her expectations. It doesn't seem like she's trying to meet mine, because if she was, this isn't rocket science type of thing. So, I mean, like, how do you respond to that?
I was gonna say that you're still looking at what the other person is or isn't doing, and assuming that the lack of care is reflected by the fact that they didn't meet your expectations. Like we said, with the person who is messy, it's beyond her to do it. She can improve, but she can never be who he wants her to be, Miss Yecky. It's not going to happen. And so, are they realistic expectations? Does it really mean they don't care? Are they making some steps towards trying to show you they care and wanting to please you? And maybe you feel like you're trying to make them happy and meet their expectations, but do they see it that way? Do they see that the steps you're making are in an effort to meet, to meet their needs? So again, talking things out is so helpful.
Right. If
you communicate it and share that you're caring, and share your ability or not ability to change on any given expectation, or ask for assistance, like, that's really hard for me, but can you help me do it? Can you remind me? Can you tell me I'm doing a great job when I did meet your expectations or got closer to it? Please give me feedback, positive feedback. You will get a lot of brownie points for positivity, because I think we often, it's like, why didn't you do this? Or why is it like this again? Versus like, wow, I see you tried. I really appreciate that. That was a great dinner, and I'm used to not having nice dinners ready for me. Or you were on time. I so appreciate that. Or you were closer to being on your time. I know you're making an effort. Words like that just go so far, towards coming closer and getting the expectations met. But you still want to be, kind with your expectations.
I would say two things on this. I think in terms of my thing is just like, be more open, try to work towards it, be more expressive. I would say something similar, and maybe just one different point. One is in terms of the fact that she may not be giving, and for him, it's like rocket science. It's like not rocket science. It could be that what's needed here is not her doing what he was hoping or expecting, but him learning to express his expectations. There are a lot of people that are not good at expressing their expectations. And it could be that what's missing here is not her sensitivity to his expectations, but is his learning the skill of expressing what he needs. And it could be that that's missing, because plenty of people, they kind of they just assume you should know better. Their mother knew better, right? Their mother knew when they needed a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The wife likes sushi, right? Sorry, different generation, right? So, like that's one thing. First of all, that it may be that the issue over here is not so much her, but it might be him. He needs to learn how to express. That's number one, and do it in a positive way, in a caring way,
and modify,
etc. And then the second thing could be that if he's a giver, so he is now not intentionally and not with any bad feelings, he's set up a system of he's the giver, she really appreciates it, and she doesn't know that he has needs because he's such a giver and such a nice guy, and he just extends himself. And for him to realize he's giving a message to her, which inadvertently, it's a wonderful thing to do, but he's kind of, in a certain way, he may be setting up this dynamic by not extending himself and just being Mr. Nice Guy all the time. So it could be that Mr. Nice Guy has to say, I love being able to take care of you, but I want to tell you, like, there are a couple of things that are happening for me, and this is kind of the two things now together. And, I need some time with you, or I need some time alone, or whatever it might be, so that he changes the dynamic of being Mr. Nice Guy all the time, being a little bit more honest about himself, and then learning how to express that. I don't know if that addresses the issue.
Definitely. Even the way Rebbe was describing the issues, it was, kind of like a mothering kind of feeling that was missing. So I think that Rebbe hit the nail on the head.
All right. And if there's nothing, whatever, anything else, basically that's so anyway. So we're talking about. I think we're gonna wrap it up. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead. Anything else you want to say?
I was gonna say that if there's anybody that has a particular topic that they want talked about, that they're interested in hearing about, it would be so helpful to put it, in chat or to send it out, and so that next time we can hit that topic.
Right. And I'll just encourage everybody that's listening, and thank you everybody for joining, that as you're going through your day, it doesn't have to be with your spouse. It could be with your boss. It could be with your friends and your colleagues. Think about the things that kind of frustrate you, annoy you. A guy is loud. A guy is, selfish. Think about the things that frustrate you, or if we can frustrate us, and think about what is my expectation in this situation. The ultimate picture of that is in a marriage, because with a friend, so you will be his friend. You won't be his friend, right? But by a spouse, you hopefully
will stay their spouse.
Yeah. So you have to work out those expectations on a whole different level. But they play out in our lives all the time. All right.
And they will repeat.
Sorry.
You will see the same issue repeat itself in different relationships and at different times until it's worked out.
Right. That's what my wife just said. I'd really want to just make that point. People think that if I change partners, it's going to change that, and it doesn't. If it's you, you're going to carry it with you. One of the most important lessons that we've learned about working with the couples that we work with, you take it with you. And it could be something that we all know, but whether we live with that and we make that happen. But if we're going to get annoyed at a certain thing, the next partner may be better at it, but will be annoyed in some other and related way.
Everybody should have success
Man.
in their marriages, their relationships.
Okay. Good to see everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Alumni.
Thank you, Rebbe. Thank you.